I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to our meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 28, 2013, and it is approximately 6:35 p.m. Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Cordova?
Here.
Councilmember Beta?
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Here.
Councilmember Peralta?
Here.
Councilmember Silva?
Here. And we have the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we will go to approval of the agenda. Members of the council, as you see, we do have a lengthy agenda, and we do have a few public hearings. And is there any changes to the agenda as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
No, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to awards and recognitions. This time I'd like to congratulate, it's an honor to be the mayor under these circumstances when we have so many winners in our community, especially when we have the boys and girls track and field champions. The girls won state championship, and the girls, I understand, the boys won third place, correct? So how about a big round of applause for these individuals? If I can have Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez come and help me with the presentation. We know that it takes a strong commitment, and the parents, thank you for your commitment to our kids of our community, for making this happen. And the reason why I chose Mayor Pro Tem, not only because he's Mayor Pro Tem, but a few of his family members, nephews, were amongst the champions there. So and the stepson as well. All right. So Mayor Pro Tem, if you can, if I can have all the coaches come up, and if you could give me the coaches. We'll start off with the first one. So we can have Coach Benny Mitchell come up. Coach Hilario Serrano. Coach Ernest Martinez. Coach Nando Chavez. Coach Flavio Lopez. Coach Emily Compton. Coach David Chavez. Coach Robert Trujillo. Coach Dominic Martinez. Well, we have a lot of coaches here and do a great job. So I'm going to present each and every one of you. On behalf of the town of Taos, I also would like to bring up Coach Athletic Director Nikki McCarty as well. Congratulations. And on behalf of the mayor and council, it's an honor to be here in front of you, presenting you with these recognitions as you served our town well. You represented the town of Taos well, and this certificate is awarded reads as follows. This certificate is awarded to all of you coaches and athletic director. The town of Taos would like to commend you on your guidance and support. It is with great pride that we recognize your achievements. You help mold our leaders of tomorrow. Congratulations on your all-state championship. presented this 28th day of May 2013. Congratulations. Sure, absolutely. And then after we do that, we'll, we can, maybe Abigail, you can take a picture so Pilar can come in. If you wouldn't mind. I'm sorry. Please.
Doesn't happen that often, so I need to take a photo opportunity. Let both you will. Need a white screen. Yes, sir.
And now for the champs that make it all happen, where the rubber meets the pavement, so to speak, that is the players, and we'd like to recognize them as follows. The first one that we will come up, Janice Medina. Congratulations on your all-state performance in winning first 4x100, first 4x200, second shot put, and second melody relay. Congratulations. Jennifer Branch. Congratulations on your all-state performance in the 4x200 meter relay. Miranda Vigil. All-state performance, first in the 4x100, first in the 4x200, third in the long jump 200, and second in the melody relay. Medley relay. Okay. Next one is Midnight Lujan. Congratulations on your all-state performance, fourth in the high jump. Amanda Mondragon. All-state performance, first in the 4x100, first in the 4x200, third in the 400, and second in the medley relay. I get tired of even thinking of those relays. Joaquin Valerio. Jacqueline. I'm sorry, Jacqueline Valerio. She's not here? Good thing she wasn't here. Haley Rack. Haley Rach. Congratulations on your all-state performance. Congratulations. Shaylee Mira. Julia Heron Cruz. Congratulations on your all-state performance. Congratulations. Marisol Martinez. Congratulations on your all-state performance, second in the 800, second in the 1600 medley relay. Congratulations. Hannah Gunther. All-state performance in second 3200 meter run and fifth in the 1600 meter run. Congratulations. Jacob Pacheco. Mateo Vigil. Donovan Gravel.
The boys don't want to.
Kevin McCarty. Congratulations, sixth in the pole vault. Congratulations.
You want to be with the girls or what?
Joaquin Medina. Joaquin Medina. Angelica Pacheco. Congratulations. Greg Martinez. Nick Lemley. Martine Bernal. Jonathan Cordova. Lorenzo Rael. Congratulations, all-state performance, first in the 4x200 and fourth in the 4x100 meter relay. Isaac Gonzalez. All-star performance, first in the 200, first in the 400, first in the 4x200, first in the 400, and second in the triple jump. Congratulations. Devin Ortega. All-state performance, first in the 4x200, first in the 4x400, fourth in the 4x100, fifth in the long jump, sixth in the 100-meter dash. Congratulations. Ladies. I gave the coaches ones too. We have Coach Ernest Martinez that showed up as well. Coach. Congratulations on your support and your accomplishments all-state championship. Congratulations. On behalf of, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the mayor and council, it is an honor and pleasure to stand before you all and present you these certificates as a small token of our appreciation for representing Taos well. You guys are true champions, and we really appreciate how you performed at the state championship, and congratulations again. Thank you. Congratulations again to all the coaches and parents. Congratulations to you for doing a great job with your kids. Congratulations. Okay, we will move on with the Citizens Forum, item 6. On that item, I did notice quite a few people signing up for the Citizens Forum. We do have a lot of folks wanting to speak on the fireworks and also the library. I would just ask, because of our lengthy agenda, if we would kind of keep our comments short, well, relatively short. We've heard a lot of emails. We've seen a lot of emails, and we understand the concerns, and we're definitely going to take those concerns under advisement. But I would just ask if you would help us expedite our meeting, because sometimes we'll stay here till 1 o'clock in the morning on some of these public hearings, and defeats the purpose of having a public hearing if we're going that late. So if you could just indulge us with that courtesy, we'd really appreciate that. I will put a time limit of 2 minutes on the Citizens Forum. So we can begin with Antonia Zima. And welcome to our meeting, ma'am. Welcome. And if you feel that your comments have already been made by the first person, if you could just forego your turn, if possible, if you feel that it's about the same topic on there. So, okay, Antonia, welcome to our meeting.
Okay, well, I'm a volunteer at Stray Hearts Animal Shelter, and I guess most of you probably realize that the fireworks are set off close to the shelter, like less than a quarter of a mile away from the shelter, and that I know that the council members have looked to see if there is any other location that might be better and haven't come up with anything that they felt was a better alternative to the current location. I was looking at the newspaper articles from last year that were out after the fireworks and all of these, describing the trauma of the animals and the different suggestions, and people saying, well, why don't we all come together and come up with some new alternatives and new places, but nothing happened. These are all the ones that came out the week right after the fireworks, and I saved them. I know that they used to have the fireworks out by the high school, and apparently that's not good now because they put the AstroTurf on there, and it depends on what kind of fireworks you use, whether or not the sparks will fly around to the AstroTurf or not. But there certainly is a lot of open land behind Ancianos and also behind the county courthouse building. And I know that one of the big fields is privately owned. It's for sale, but the place where we're currently having them now is also privately owned by the Guzman and the other big family. I can't think of their name, sorry. But so it's not that it has to be publicly owned land. It could be someone that would step up and volunteer. And then the other thing I wanted to mention real quickly about that, because I think that would be a perfect location. There's so much parking out there, right around there behind Ancianos and around there and around behind the courtyard and all that. And it wouldn't have to be on the football field or the baseball field or anything. The other thing is I'm wishing that someone would approach the tribal council of the Pueblo and see if by some chance they might consider using the casinos, because I do know that in most of the Native American casinos in the state of New Mexico are putting on the fireworks. They usually do, like down in Espanola, for example. Espanola town goes in with Okeoenge Casino to put on the fireworks. And it's really good. It's a great fireworks that they do. And they share the cost of it and so forth. And then also further on down, the Buffalo Thunder and the Camel Rock, and then down closer to the Casino Hollywood and the Sandia and all of those and Isleta, and they all do them. So I was thinking, why not? Why not Taos Mountain,
Sure.
Step up to the plate and help us out here with that,
Okay.
So that's my comment.
Rather than go through the list, I'm just going to go by a show of hands, and I'll start calling you all. Anyone else want to speak on this topic, and then we'll go topic by topic? Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Yamuna Devi, and I'm the one that started the online petition on change.org. I had no idea that it was going to go as far and wide as it has. We're up to almost 1,300 signatures. I know that you're all well aware of the issues of the trauma that's caused to the animals. What I want to bring up at this point, since this petition has gone global basically, is this is an opportunity for the town to be viewed in a very positive light. People who follow these animal issues usually stay with them till the end. They'll watch from the beginning, they'll follow an issue to the end through the resolution. Here we have signatures on this petition, not only from all over the town of Taos, Taos County, New Mexico, the United States, also internationally. These are potential tourists that would come to this town. So they're watching to see what we do. And if we can show that we're sensitive to these issues, and yeah, it's the animal shelter, and I've seen people commenting, they're just dogs. Well, we're just humans. There's no difference. They suffer like we suffer. So if we have a good resolution to this, this is going to inspire a lot of people to sit up and look at Taos and say, hey, well, you know, they did a good thing here by taking care of their shelter animals. Let's look at what kind of vacation we could have here. So this is a potential to bring in more tourism from these people that are becoming aware of this issue through the online petition and through the things that are going on Facebook. So we're going to be turning these petitions into you at the next council meeting. We have a statistician who's going to sort through them. They'll have how many people in Taos, the town of Taos have signed, how many people in the county have signed, and then plus all the other signatures and where they're coming from. So this is my position right now, is I'm asking you seriously, when we turn in our petitions, please don't discount the fact that there are people from all over the country, all over the world signing the petition, and just kind of watching to see what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on this topic. Welcome to our meeting. If you could state your name for a record, please. Yes.
I'm Liz Fox. I'm also speaking about the fireworks. In the 7 years I've lived in Taos, I've been kind of astounded at how much violence there is here. Domestic violence, serious drug abuse, the gang situation, and probably a lot of stuff that I don't know about. And to me, this is an issue also about violence. What's going on with the fireworks and the way the dogs are traumatized, it's something that you guys have the position, the power, and I think the moral imperative to change this. To me, it's not, should this be changed? It's basically some solutions have been offered, and we need to really work on this. I just don't think it's acceptable. We have these wonderful high school students here that have done great things. This is the direction we need to move in as a town towards just ending violence in every realm that we can. I guess nothing's going to happen this year. The fireworks are going to happen. And one thing that's going to happen is Stray Hearts is trying to get volunteers to take a dog home for the night, just to get them out of that environment. And I'd just like a show of hands, how many of you guys are willing to take a dog home for the night?
I'll take a dog. I'll take a dog. I'll take a dog.
To start. Contact Jan Gordon, and she'll set you up with a dog to take home.
I did, and she said that there's no more dogs. In other words, the effort to foster the dogs, she said I kind of came late, but I'm still on the list. Sorry.
Take a cat. Well, the other thing is, animal control will be bringing more in on a daily basis. So as soon as they
I'm on the list.
And the kennels, they fill up again.
Okay, we could go and move on with the on this topic. Anyone else on the fireworks? Then we'll move on. I see a few people for the library. Those wishing to speak on the library. You want to speak first? Anyone want to speak first? Before we go to the library, ma'am, go ahead and come up. Go ahead and come up. I just want to thank those that have responded to the petition from Taos. I have to say that the majority of the ones coming from Taos are very polite, very professional, very courteous. I can't say that to be from Taos, because those people that have signed the petition that are from Taos are very respectful and stay on the subject. So kudos to the people from Taos that have signed the petition. Yeah.
I had signed in that I wanted to talk about the budget, not just the library. My name is Margarita Denovan.
Welcome.
What we need to consider tonight is a matter of priorities. To begin with, one, what is the best use of our county and town tax dollars? We pay those taxes in order to pay for our community needs. Things to consider: A, county residents pay taxes as well as pay town taxes as well. in the form of sales taxes. Therefore, our voices need to be heard or should be heard, as well as those of the town residents in all matters pertaining to a budget. Citizens have not had sufficient time to make our priorities and desires known as to how our money should be spent in regard to some projects. C, while we do elect officials to make those decisions, they in turn need to base those decisions after getting and based on public input from the community. Second, some answers to consider about what those benefits to our community based on present need, not on future hopes. The following, for instance, the Youth and Family Center. And this is very short, simple answers that I've written down. The health and welfare of our youth and families is at stake when considering taking money from the youth and family. Also, the effects of activities, youth activities versus youth crime. So I see the Youth and Family Center as a very definite present need. The second one I'd like to talk about is the library. And one thing to consider about the library is image. And we're always talking about improving our town image. One of the major criteria for judging a town or a city's quality of life has always been its library. And so I see that as a very present need. Second, the library provides a very vital community service. And as proof, we collected at the library on Saturday over 300 petition signatures. And those included teenagers and children, as well as out-of-town visitors. So I see that as very much a present need. So we shouldn't be taking money away from the library in any way. And we also should not be asking people in the county to pay a fee, because there are many people in the county who cannot afford that. Okay, let's see. I'd like to consider...
Please wind down your comments, please.
Am I having trouble?
Well, no, if you could wind down your comments,
Oh, okay.
please. Yeah.
The command center. Again, these are very simple answers. Once the police department moves, there will be plenty of space at the present location. The other thing that we need to consider is the cost of repairs to the present location versus the cost of rent on the proposed new location.
If you can wind down your comments, please, because we need to move on.
The airport expansion.
Okay.
I don't see that as a present need, because I'm very sorry, I must say I'm very sorry if the 1% can't land their private jets on our airport. But I also know that at least 99% of county residents have never used the airport.
Ma'am, if you could go ahead, if you could do me a favor, if you could send that to me, and we will definitely take your comments into consideration.
Our petition.
Absolutely.
And there's over 350 here.
Okay. If you could turn those into the
And
clerk,
we
and we
got
can.
those in less than 3 hours at the library.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next person wanting to speak on the library. Sir. I guess your time's up.
That's a wrap.
She took your 2 minutes.
It's in the can. I'm Bob Bishop, and I first started using the library here in Taos in 1971 as soon as I got in the witness protection program here. And I think that it's very, to me it's a joke that you guys can't figure out a way to have a free public library. You know, we don't need to charge people for that. We don't need to do it. I mean, we've got enough places right now. I mean, just what I just heard there, several places where, you know, the soccer field, the airport, you know, the 1%, you know, they're using that. Every time I go in the library, it's full. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And it's a shame. I mean, it's a joke to not have a free public library in Taos, New Mexico. As far as funding, I notice that there's a real uptick right now. We don't seem to be able to have an investigation capability at the police department to get information to the DA so we can prosecute people at trial. So what we're doing right now in this city, in this county, is we are bombarding people with traffic tickets. We've decided that the police department, the sheriff's department can do that. Apparently they can't do a prosecution, but they can do that. So one thing I'd suggest is let's take every fifth parking ticket, or traffic ticket, excuse me, and let's give that to the public library from the town and the county. Think about that.
Okay. Next person on the library, ma'am. State your name for the record. Welcome to our meeting.
I'm Hope Buechler, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the library, which I think is of benefit to the 99%, since we're talking about the 99%. And looking at the budget, and looking at the sums expended, it's the library that I think really benefits the ordinary people in town, and a great many of them, all ages. Also, as was pointed out, it's benefits tourists too, because I know a great many people who come to visit and they're here for some time will go to the library. We discovered that when we got the petitions, because people would say, oh, I always come to the Taos Library while I'm here. And it does, as was pointed out, give a very good impression of the town if you have a free library. And that's what I really want to address, the question of raising revenue for the library by charging fees, and I think that's not really a very good idea. And I would like to just quickly read the mission statement of the library, which is, and I do need my glasses, the mission of the Taos Public Library is to provide and facilitate freedom of access to informational, recreational, and educational materials for everyone. And I really think to charge people a fee, those people out of town, to use the library really would hamper freedom of access. So I hope that you'll consider another way of raising the revenue.
Okay, thank you. Next one on the library. Ma'am, welcome to our meeting. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Alicia Norling, and I'm here to talk about the library. You know, the library is a town's treasure. It's kind of a jewel, actually. And in my little limited travels, wherever I go, whether it's here in the U.S. or any other place, I've sought out the library. And, you know, we have a treasure here, too. Our Taos Library is a treasure. And, you know, even though you don't, you know, the library is not your thing, you know, I suggest you go and visit and see the people there. And, you know, everyone is benefiting, whether it's the children that come to the children's library, the youth, or adults, older adults. The staff, too, has been cut, and, you know, that's a shame because there's nobody that works harder and is more dedicated than librarians. I can also mention the Youth and Family Center. There again, the well-being and the education of our families depends on that place, depends on the library. And I can't imagine limiting that or hindering that in any way. As far as the command center, that's kind of been a thorn. And, I'm a child of the Depression, and I have always believed, or I was taught, that you do with what you have. And there weren't any complaints from the people in the command center. It needed some alteration to make it suitable. It also needed upgrading. I mean, that was reasonable as far as cost is concerned. But in these really difficult economic times, it just doesn't make sense to me somehow to launch into some big, expensive endeavor. I think that's about it. But thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next. Anyone would like to speak on the library itself, or? State your name for the record and welcome to our meeting.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Hoff. I'm a resident of Arroyo Hondo. I am also a former employee of Taos Public Library, and therefore I have particular reason to love it and a whole lot of experience in how valuable it is to the community, because I was actually one of these people that was honored to be able to be of value to the community by working for the library. I just wanted to question the priorities of where the town is spending its money. Although I'm skeptical about the soccer field, and I'm extremely skeptical about this big move to a new command center, and I'm very apprehensive about what the airport expansion will mean, I would think that in flush times it would be okay to invest that much in these big projects whose benefit is maybe limited not to the whole population. But these are tough times, and you are obviously having trouble balancing your budget. And I would ask you, don't balance the budget on the heads of the 99%, because the Youth and Family Center, the library, these are services that we are paying our taxes for. And the future is in our children more than it is in these big capital projects. So please don't impoverish the services to the community. Don't get rid of all of these jobs that serve the community in order to sink all this money into all of these big capital projects. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on the library? Sir, state your name for the record. Welcome to our meeting.
Thanks for having us. I'm Keith McHenry, and I do use Youth and Family Center, and many of my friends and children are totally like that is a huge part of their life, and so I urge you not to make any cuts in that. And those same people, including myself, also depend on the library. And I have heard from many visitors who, for whatever reason, I end up talking to them because I have a cowboy hat or something. They tell me they're really impressed by our library, and they're amazed at the Youth and Family Center. So those are two things that I would really urge you to fully fund. I really have no idea why we need more stuff about an airport. It seems like the people are able to land in the dump, and they're having a fine time there, and so they don't think they need more runways. And the command center, that has been a mystery since the earliest days of their rumoring to be a command center, and that seems like a huge boondoggle of some rather amazing proportions. So it would be better to expand the library and to expand the Youth and Family Center and reduce the airport a little bit, just maybe add on the dump and Definitely, I don't know if we need more people working at soccer fields. I think the soccer fields are fine. We've been able to find them, can use them without a lot of extra assistance. So anyway, that's my perspective. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyone else on the library? Ma'am, state your name for the record and welcome to our meeting.
I'm Jean Green, and you've heard from me before. I agree with the past couple of speakers about the command center. That's a lot of money. The airport expansion, the soccer field, $7 million soccer fields, that we want to take money from the Youth and Family Center that serves so many people in this community and put it over to the soccer fields for a manager. I know all these things are on the budget tonight, and you put it way down the agenda, and you're going to vote on it, up or down. And we request that you delay the vote on that for a public hearing on this issue, because the Youth and Family Center, the library, the other departments that are being cut through attrition over the last few years, down to the bone. That's not okay with the people here, and we would really like for you to have a public hearing on that. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak on the library? Now that we're going to close the public hearing on the library itself, I just want to make one thing clear, that this council, since before I was in the council, people that served on it before, the priority has been the library, to continue it. And as mayor of the town of Taos, it's my priority, as it is this council, to continue it, the free use of the library. When we're looking at ideas, how can we fund it? How can a municipality of 5,000 fund the usage of 30, 40,000 people? Yes, we do have challenges, and proposals come up to the table, and that is for the governing body to decide on. It is my commitment to continue the library at its current levels. All departments, not just the Youth and Family Center, not the library, have been asked to cut. In this economic times, we all cut, and we all have cut accordingly, not just the Youth and Family. I believe the Youth and Family that we spend $1.2 million is amongst our highest funded departments. It's not our mandate that we have to fund this, but it's something that adds to the quality of life. We spend more dollars on staff on the library than we do at our streets department. That shows the level of commitment that this council has to the library. That is why I went to the county to see if the county can collaborate with us to support this important endeavor that this council has continued to do. We have not heard back from them. So it's obvious that they are not going to come to the table. So now it's up to us to continue and see how we can strategize. The current proposal from the staff, the current proposal is to charge a $10 annual fee for the checking out to get a library card, not for the usage. Anybody can use it. And that is for adults only, and that's not for children. And that is not, there's no fee proposed to charge anyone that wants to use computers, look at the books. It's only if they're going to check out the books. That is the fee that's proposed. Now, this council will vote on or amend the budget accordingly. But you really have to realize that this council has, if it wasn't for this council, I'm not saying this specific council, but the town of Taos governing body that has had that commitment for years, we wouldn't have a library because the county hasn't done that. And we're continuing to do it. We wouldn't have a youth and family center. We provide for fire protection within the county, from all the way from Pilar all the way to the gorge. People in Tres Piedras, people in El Prado depend on our fire service, and we spend about the same amount on our fire protection that we do in our library. I think it's $700,000-800,000 that we spend on fire protection. So our commitment is there, and we're just strategizing how we can keep that commitment there and raise funds so that we can continue operating this important department. Councilmember Peralta, on the library.
On the library, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We don't want to do what we're looking at possibly doing because we want to, but the reason for that is because we do not want to cut services within the library. And there's a lot of departments within the town that have a priority for safety and for the welfare of the community. And the important aspects of the library are very, very important to the education and the understanding of being able to communicate within the community. But I ask one thing of you. You've come here and you've given your support for the library, and you've asked this council and mayor to do what they can to keep the library free. I ask you to do the same thing and bring your forces together and go to a county commission meeting and ask them to help support the library. You know, the citizens of Taos also pay county taxes, but we don't get anything in return for the taxes that we pay into the county coffers. We ask you to help us to keep the library safe and support it the way it should be supported. Now, one other thing to remember in this, we are one of the few communities in the state of New Mexico that is not a county municipal library. Albuquerque is, Santa Fe is, Espanola is. I went through and looked at a lot of libraries in the state, and I couldn't find any of them that weren't funded both by county and the municipality. And since this library was taken over from the Harwood by the town of Taos, there has been no support from the county to support it. So I ask you to help us to come together as a community to create the necessary resources that we need to keep this library and make it grow and make it better. But we can only do this if we work together to happen. So I ask for your support to ask the county to help us. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I'm just going to, just a quick rebuttal on that, just to see if there's any clarification, because I don't want to, it's not on the agenda and we can't really be discussing to make decisions on. This would be on the, yeah, okay, okay.
We circulated 2 petitions, one to the town and one to the county.
Okay.
And the one to the county was addressing the point that Councilor Peralta just made.
Okay.
Asking that they provide funds.
Great. Okay. That's great.
Thank you.
Sir?
Fred, I think that's a great point. And I've noticed in the newspaper accounts of the relationship between the town and the county lately in terms of annexation and so forth. Y'all haven't been able to resolve some of these things. And what my question to you is, what kind of relationship have you been able to work with the county if we go over there to them and we say the same thing we're telling you, Taos needs a free public library. It's ridiculous not to, okay? What kind of relationship do you have with them that would be able to actually channel our energy into a meaningful resolution?
I guess, I know you asked that, I've been having first conversations with the chairman of the board, and there's a split board.
At the county.
They may offer collaboration on one issue, but the majority of the board may not. So it's hard to gauge what that collaboration would be when they're not in full consensus on a lot of things. I must say that it is challenging because we all pay property tax. It's not an us versus them. You know, Councilor Abeta has always asked, when is the time going to come where we have one government instead of 2 governments that truly serve the whole region, like Los Alamos County? Yeah, you know, when you have that, and when you have the, the property tax, now they have a proposal to raise the property taxes, and they want to fix everything outside of the municipality, but yet our citizens within the municipal boundaries are bound by those property taxes. The only thing I get in response, the only thing I've gotten in response from them is we provide ambulance service, and to me that's not a service. You get charged every time a constituent gets to that ambulance, and you get called, you get a charge, and it's a hefty charge. We provide fire service, and we don't charge the residents for that. So there's a big difference on the services, the level of services that the town of Taos has taken the lead on. The soccer fields. It's another thing that we provide that adds a quality of life to our youth. Some people will say it wasn't the best investment. Well, some other people truly believe in it. The command center, some people say we need it. Some people say it's a bad investment. But until you really know the dynamics and what we're faced, then at that point, you can fully understand what we're faced with. But Councilor Peralta, you want to add on that?
You know, I think that if I've watched what the county commission has done in the past 5 months, this new county commission, they listen to their constituents and they seem to respond to them. And for example, on the annexation, they responded in their position against it based upon the input by their constituents. But one of the things that I wanted to mention to you too is that the monies that are used for the airport or that were built the soccer field and that, those are capital monies. They cannot be used for the operation of the library or the youth and family center. Those are operational monies. It's a different pocket. They're a one-time fund, and what you need is a continuous fund in order to operate the library or the youth and family center or the street department or any of those other things that we do daily. So we can't use them across the board, because if you do that, you're going to be in worse shape than you are now. And that's just to give you an example, is that those are apples and oranges. You can't mix those two because it doesn't come out the same.
But I agree with Councilor Peralta. Help us together. I believe between the county and the town, together we can fund, even if it's 20%, 10% that they contribute. If you look at the ratio, the demographics that use our public library, it's about 30% town versus about 70% county. And that's been for years. So if they only want to help 10%, 15%, it's a start. It's a commitment to their constituents as well, and we'll embrace that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make one comment, I want to thank everybody for coming out with regards especially to the library. I have 2 kids. One was here this evening receiving that award. So he, along with my little guy, rely heavily on that library for the summer programs that they offer as well, the literacy programs, which I think are such an integral part of this community because of the fact that through knowledge is power. And through power, we can overcome the adversity of poverty. And, you know, our community faces a lot of issues from both realms of the spectrum, from the wealthy to the impoverished side of the realm. So the one thing I would like to say is that last year, the library director, Mr. Jaramillo, and myself put together a proposal to the county just asking to fund a part-time employee just to do the sorting. And the response that I got back from the commission, this was just last year when I had just become elected, was that they had a library. The library that they're talking about is the library in Talpa. Now, from the observation that I have, that library contains about 400 books. And mostly are a donated book, okay? So that's why, along with Councilor Peralta and the mayor, and along with this governing body, there is power in numbers. And we do need that help from you guys to approach the commission, to come to their senses and help us fund some of these things that, you know, this community as a whole benefits from. And again, I'm one of these individuals that says it is a big purse book for us to carry on the backs of the 7,000. I know that the county residents spend money within the city. There's no doubt about that. We are the metropolis. We are the place where everybody goes. But the one thing that has to be kept in mind is that GRT pot gets divided 3 ways. And out of that 3 ways, the biggest taker of that is the state of New Mexico. And next in line is the county, and finally the city. So again, please help us with whatever you can. We are your allies. I don't want anything to fall short of that library not cutting service, but improving services. So please help us in any way, and help us to help you. I mean, if there's anything that we can do, sometimes elected official to elected official, it means nothing. But when the constituents speak up in numbers, that's what helps. So again, thank you for coming out. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay. Thank you. Oscar?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just as a matter of clarification, of course, we're asking you to approve the budget tonight, but it doesn't go into effect until July 1. So should the county then decide to contribute something towards the library between now and then, it's something that can be put in place by then, and we'd be glad to then bring back to you an amended budget that takes out that fee, recognizing what the county will contribute. So just in terms of how things work, that is a possibility.
Great. Okay. Let's go on to general topics on the Citizens Forum. At this time, is there anyone that would like to speak under the Citizens Forum? Mr. Northrop? Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. I again ask this body that it's warn this body that it's a violation of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution to support the Taos Fiestas through a yearly $15,000 cash donation, along with many, many thousands of dollars in other contributions and considerations. I have asked Fiesta President Joe Quintana on several occasions, beginning last October, to let me see the books of this organization. He strung me along for months before finally denying this to me. As much as anything, the fiestas are a religious celebration, making government support a clear violation of the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution. I am a big fiesta supporter, working for many hours every year on the Lions Club historic Tio Vivo carousel, set up during the fiestas on the southeast corner of the plaza. But my active support of the fiestas does not blind me to the criminal activity of this body in financially supporting this event. I'm glad to see that the vote on the sign code draft will be postponed tonight. This draft has numerous flaws beyond those listed in Section 9B of tonight's agenda. Once the draft is finalized, it should go to the P&Z Commission, then to at least 2 public forums, then back to the P&Z Commission, and finally to the Town Council. However, little can be accomplished until the sign code draft is presented along with right-of-way maps showing the streets of Taos, both those owned by the state and those owned by the town. But even at the preliminary stage of passing a new sign ordinance, it is clear that the first 4 pages of the draft are nothing but nonsense. The sign code is not the venue to begin cleaning up the often tacky, shabby, and trashy look of the major roads through Taos. And finally, I would like one of you to volunteer to take care of my donkey on July 4th, during the July 4th fireworks, if you're so inclined. Okay. He lives about a quarter mile from the fireworks.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak under this Citizens Forum? See none, I will close the Citizens Forum. Thank you all for coming to speak on those topics. And we will go to the item 7, the consent agenda. It's a matter of time, members of the council, if it's okay with you, if we can forego the reading of the entire agenda. It has been posted. Yeah. And make the agenda items public, a public record, a formal, it is on the record anyway as the agenda. And is there any questions to the consent agenda as presented?
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor.
I have none, Mr. Mayor.
None, Mr. Mayor. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion to approve on the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item 8A, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1324 to apply for and accept grants to complete Phase 2 of the mitigation measures as mandated by the Memorandum of Agreement between the Federal Aviation Administration and the Town of Taos and Taos Pueblo. The New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division grant is in the amount of $43,255, and the Federal Aviation Administration grant is in the amount of $778,600, with a town match of $43,256 for a total of $865,111. Council members, Oscar.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Item A and item B are related. What you have here is the second phase of the request for permission to apply for a grant, so we can do the second phase of the mitigation that was required as part of the settlement with the Pueblo. The first phase included work in terms of signage, in terms of training, in terms of just better communication, et cetera. We got about $250,000 for that, a grant for $250,000 for that. We spent all of it except about $155,000. And so the second phase includes putting in the radar system that will then detect anything that goes over the Pueblo, which is central to the settlement. And so what we're going to do is put that $155,000 to the $778,000 that we're asking for in the form of a grant, so that we can then contract with advanced navigation for a total amount of $1 million, $1,054,000, so we can put in that radar system there. And again, the local match is 5%. There's a 5% state match, and then that 90% federal match. We of course recommend approval for this and the other item.
Okay. Any questions from the council members?
Move for approval, Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? This was a key component, as Oscar mentioned, for getting the Pueblo to consent to to agree to the final stages of the EIS, to the agreement. This will determine, in fact, if there is, after we do the mitigation and all the signage at the airport and what have you, if it has made an impact, and is it getting better or is it getting worse? And if they find that it still has overflights there, they may ask our support, and we've committed that we would support them in their efforts for rulemaking to the FAA to make it mandatory no flyovers, which would be a huge task that FAA would consider, but at least they would have some type of supporting data that shows that there is some adverse effects over the World Heritage Site. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item B, consideration and possible approval of contract TT 13230 with Advanced Navigation and Positioning Corporation in the amount of $1,054,000 inclusive of gross receipts tax for the design and installation of local area multilateration system to monitor aircraft overflights of Taos Pueblo's World Heritage Site and Blue Lake Wilderness Area. Council members, Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, Oscar, on this one, is this a federal contract or is this a sole source?
It's a federal contract. It was competed, and we formed a committee that included people from Sunport. They came to town under the guidance of the FAA. They selected this vendor, and so we then negotiated with that vendor at that point. And so we came to terms in terms of the total price. It's all been approved by the FAA. And the way, just to give you maybe a little more information, the way it's been working so far with the FAA since this is a project that was not on their radar, no pun intended, and then suddenly we won approval. The way we've been working with them is that they suddenly find the money, and then they quickly tell us to apply. And so that's why we're putting both items there. So we're applying. And then if we get the grant, then we're asking with this item approval to do a contract with Advanced Navigation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Oscar, do you know what a multilateration system is? I've never heard that term before.
Yes, sir. In essence, what it is a radar that detects where a flight has taken place.
Okay.
And that it has taken place, and it gives you all the detail of that. So the idea, it gives you all the coordinates of where it came from, that it came, and when it came, et cetera.
Does it track their devices installed in the aircraft, or how do they?
Well, the way it works is, as best I understand it, we have John in the hotel. If you have any further questions, the way it works is that it tells all the airplanes that fly anywhere in the area, identify yourself, and then in all of the aircraft by requirement of the FAA. There is a device that tells that radar, okay, it's me, I'm here, I'm going in this direction, et cetera. In fact, we've had just a little problems with the military because they feel that they don't need to answer. But still, anybody in the area, it identifies where they are, et cetera, so they can then establish whether or not it went over the prohibited site. And by the way, we are doing far better the last couple of years with flyovers over the Pueblo, and we at least we believe that one of the reasons that they agreed to settle was because they saw that change, and the town was responsive. The flyovers diminished, and so things are a lot better, and that's why I think we're able to do this. And this is a big promise that we made, was to put the system in place so we could monitor it 1 year before there were any flyovers, and then after the new runway is put in, to monitor it from that point forward as well, to see if truly the new runway created for there to be more flights. And we're convinced it's not because what is decreased the flyovers is just simply knowledge of the people going to the airport that they're not supposed to go there.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor, Oscar, is it actually no flyover, or is there a ceiling height that they are restricted?
No
from?
flyover. Yeah, 0. Wait a minute. There is a 50,000.
75. It's 5,500 over, or 5,000 over the World Heritage Site, and
Oh, no, no.
3,500. Is it
Yeah, there is.
35?
It's actually 5,000 feet over the World Heritage Site and 3,000 feet over the rest of the tribal lands, including Blue Lake Wilderness Area, which puts the minimum altitude over most of the area at about 12,500 feet.
Okay. And that used to be 2,000 and went up to 5,000.
It was just 2,000 feet over the entire area. Now it's 3,000 over the entire area and 5,000 over the Pueblo structure, the World Heritage Site itself.
Isn't it about a mile radius?
The way it's written,
Nautical mile?
it's just the World Heritage Site, but you'd have to be pretty precise flying to yeah.
Yeah, so they'd probably just stay over it. Yeah. Okay.
By the way, Mr. Mayor, if I could, also the new runway, actually the approaches to that keep you away from the Pueblo if you're approaching either from the east or from the west. Looking at that, you don't go near the Pueblo at all as much as you do with the current runway.
That's correct.
Trying to land or take off. So it's a plus for us to even mitigate better the number of flights as far as people landing and taking off. The problem that you have is the curiosity seeker who wants to fly over, and that's the question that we have to work on in trying to get them saying, no, your curiosity can't be satisfied.
Well, and that was a major selling point with us during the negotiations, is that, in fact, a new runway was going to deter them. Mm-hmm. A new runway was going to mitigate a lot of the concerns of aircraft saying that, well, I had to go through the Pueblo to find better wind conditions.
Right.
Now they won't have that excuse to be curious and have a legitimate excuse to go over the World Heritage Site. And that's what they used to say. So, okay.
And Mayor and council members, just so you know also, the automated Unicom announcement system is up and running. It does broadcast every half hour. That can be changed to any time frame that we see is needed. But at this time, it is up and running, and every 30 minutes on the half hour, it does broadcast, asking pilots to avoid overflights of that area.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
What is the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Item C, consideration and approval of Resolution 1328 to apply for and accept grants to complete Phase 2 of Runway 1230 design for Taos Regional Airport. The New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation grant is in the amount of $41,803. The federal FAA grant is in the amount of $752,452, and the town of Taos matches $41,803 for a total of $836,058. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Under
one
discussion.
question. Oscar, how
Yes.
many phases are going to be in the design, or is this going to complete it?
Well, technically speaking, there's two more phases, including this one, two more phases. This will get the construction design complete. So up until now, they've been surveying, they've been getting the concept done and approved by FAA. That's done. And so what this does is then put into construction plans that concept. The last phase then would be for help through the bidding and the actual construction phase.
Do we have a budget figure as to what the total cost for the design phase is going to be?
Gosh.
Or is it one of these rolling federal contracts?
No.
Kind of like the Defense Department and paying 4 times for an airplane to be designed and built?
No, actually, in this case, in this case, the federal government is really pushing the envelope because there have been a number of times that the engineers have been designing really with the promise that there was going to be a contract following up, or the work that they were doing was going to be paid for after the fact. And so I think we're pushing it. But in terms of the total budget for the design, this will bring it to what, 1.8? About $1.8 million, about $1.8 million, including this amount.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Silva?
Just a quick question. Oscar, is it possible, or would we be, or could we be privy to the design? I'd like to take a look at that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, gosh. Basically, all you have to say is just that, and you stand back. You'll get a lot of detail, a big presentation about what the design is. We can do it to the council, or we can have it done to you individually, personally.
I would like that, either
All right.
way.
So we'll follow through with that. All right. If any of you council members also want a personal presentation of the design, et cetera, including the models, et cetera, all that information is there. The engineers are just happy to tell you all about it.
How long is that presentation?
As long as you want it. Gosh.
Maybe we could get on the next agenda, maybe
Okay.
a 15-minute presentation, 15,
All right.
20-minute presentation.
Sure.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll go to item D, consideration approval of resolution 1327 supporting a time extension to contract number D 13328/1 with the New Mexico Department of Transportation for the construction of Camino de la Merced. The request will be for a period of 1 year from June 2013 to June 2014, allowing ample time to construct and close out this project. Oscar.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, this is just one of the several projects that we have had on our list of CIPs that we just didn't complete. We think we're now in good shape to begin it next year, but we're just going to need the extra time. And so the state is quite willing for this to happen. They said you just need a formal request with council vote, et cetera. And so that's why we're coming to you. The only effect to the contract or the project here is that we just get one more year to complete it.
Mr. Mayor, Oscar, on this one, when does Sauter Miller think that they'll have construction documents ready to go to bid? Have they given you a timetable on that?
We have the Public Works Director here to answer specific questions, but as I understand it, French, it's done now, right? The engineering is no? Okay, I'll check that.
French, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, members of the council. Councilmember Peralta, as it is, today's SMA is right at about 66% complete with the design.
Have they given you a table as to when they feel they'll be finished?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, yes, they have. Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me, but I will be more than happy to share it with the council through Oscar, and I'll provide that chart.
I'm just trying to figure out a timetable as to when we look at getting it bid out and some construction actually going in the ground.
Construction. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Peralta, we're actually looking at the middle part or the latter part of October to break ground on that. And again, we'll work through up until the time that the weather doesn't permit us to work anymore.
Has the engineers, Mr. Mayor, one final question, has the engineers given you a timetable as to what they think the construction time period would be?
No, they have not, or at least not to my knowledge. But again, I'll be more than happy to have them outline that for your review.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. French, the design, what exactly does it entail? What is the amount of work to be done there? Real quick.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember.
I'm just curious if it includes all the utilities, upgrading the existing utilities.
Yes, Councilmember Silva, it will include approximately 4,000 feet of water line, approximately 2,000 feet of roadway reconstruction, and some rehabilitation to the existing sewer to include services to outside the right-of-way to each property parcel.
And are we going to be expecting to get some curb and gutter and sidewalks with that?
Yes, we are.
And how about a bicycle lane?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Silva, I don't believe that the current right-of-way would allow for a bicycle lane. However, we have asked that there be 2-foot shoulders included in the design with the 5-foot ADA compliant sidewalk on one side.
So right now, as it is, you're stretching, you're pushing the limits.
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, one other thing on that, on bicycle lanes, can we have on there that to put a share the road bicycle markings on the roadway?
Absolutely, yes.
Just as part of the construction?
Yes.
I think that's a good idea, Councilman. I think signage and striping both would be nice.
Mr. Mayor, with regards to that, French, also through any of the, is it code now that we do it on new construction roads? Have we made that?
It's policy. It's policy, not so much code. And when we can do it, because there's space and there's resources for that, we know to make that a priority.
Along with restriping, or is that going to take place on the bike lanes also?
Yes.
Good. All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the council?
Move to approve.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, French.
All right, next we'll go to item E, manager performance evaluation. Members of the council, how time flies when we're getting things done. It has been over right at a year that Oscar came, and it's time for the annual evaluation that we do on the managers pursuant to our policy, and pursuant that we do on all the employees of the town of Taos. We do annual evaluations. So I believe that in talking to Oscar internally, there is a model template that we can use, the ICMA. We can go into an executive session to discuss that if you would like under personnel matters, or if you want us to come up with a plan to present later at a later date, because right now it's just we're at the preliminary stages of that. I just want to know if there's any direction from the council on how we should proceed, or ask our HR director to proceed on that. But basically what we wanted to follow is an ICMA standard evaluation form and criteria.
Mr. Mayor, I've used that before, and it works very well.
I'm okay with that.
So I suppose we don't need to go into an executive session at this time. Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for executive session. And I believe what we should do is distribute that to the council for input, to the, not amongst each other, but for input to the HR, as if there's any questions they may want to add to that. This way we can begin the process, and then we'll schedule it at a future meeting, the next meeting. Okay?
Okay.
Update regarding central communications, Oscar.
Actually, we have making that presentation our assistant town manager, Abigail Adame, who's also the acting director of emergency dispatch. So this is our monthly update on the relocation, or efforts to relocate.
Welcome, Abigail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Oscar. As Oscar stated, this is the monthly update for the relocation to Gustorf Road. The purpose of the presentation, again, is just to reiterate what the purpose of the project is for the listening audience, also to give you all an overview of the tasks that are currently in progress, and the transition overview of how the actual relocation is going to take place. As I've stated previously, the goal is to relocate the 5 call-taking stations that are currently at Civic Plaza Drive and relocate those over to Gustorf Road. We will also, our goal is to do that with minimal downtime, or to schedule our backup so that individuals that utilize the 911 services during the transition will not realize that they're missing out and that we're actually taking those phone calls. Our plan is to have this established by July 31st. Now that deadline is tentative. I have spoken with the individual who will be the project manager for this relocation. His name is Eric Caddy. He is a consultant with L.R. Kimball. Now that the council has approved the budget adjustment, we can move forward with signing the contract, and that'll be done tomorrow.
Just to make sure, I think it just so it'll be on the record and clear to everyone what that budget adjustment was, the amount it was, and the effect on that on the ending balance of the dispatch. Because I mention that because there has been some discussion with the county as to what the ending balance is and how this project is, how much it's costing to move forward.
Right. Mr. Mayor, Council, so in the ending balance currently, well, prior to the budget adjustment, there is an amount about $233,000. Of that $233,000, we will be utilizing $133,000 for the relocation of Central Communications. So the ending balance within the Central Communication budget will remain at $105,000. There are rumors, as Oscar just touched on, that the ending balance will be zero after the relocation, but that is not accurate.
Which was the county's proposal, but we're going to go a different direction and leave $100,000 in there.
That's correct. So it's not at a zero, most importantly. So I've spoken with Eric Caddy, who is going to be the project manager once the contract is signed by the mayor. And when the next two slides, I'll give a calendar of the schedule of the events that will take place. The first and most important meeting will be held within the next week and a half, and that's going to be an on-site meeting with myself, the project manager for Motorola, and Eric Caddy. After that meeting, he will establish biweekly meetings with the stakeholders involved with the relocation, and he will be giving briefings within 48 hours of those biweekly meetings. If anything is to change, I have asked that he check that with me before the actual change is given the green light. And he will also be responsible for providing overview of the invoices that will be submitted by the vendors. We have received a proposal from Advanced Communication for the actual relocation of the furniture as well as the equipment. Again, once the contract is signed, the project manager, that'll be one of his first tasks that he do is that he review the proposal that is submitted by Advanced Communication and ensure that it meets the needs of the town of Taos. We have already placed the order of the equipment that's going to be purchased by the state grant funds in the amount of $362,000. And again, he'll just verify that the equipment that we are to receive and order follows what's in the grant. Part of the transition plan will to be the relocation of non-essential equipment such as the recorders and any spare equipment that we have found. We've actually found quite a few in the dispatch center. And one of the most important portions of this project is to validate the testing at Gustorf Road, and that is part of his contract that he is responsible for ensuring that the validation is taking place and that we are operational. I don't know if you can see that, but that is a schedule of what the vendors will be looking at. Again, it's important to note that it's not a committed plan. It's tentative right now. Once he schedules the initial on-site meeting, we'll be able to determine if these dates are still going to be able to be met. So by mid-July, end of July, the validation will begin. He has been told that we're during fiestas during that time, so it'll be scheduled before or shortly thereafter so that we don't interrupt our services during one of our busiest times. And some of the projects, the progress of the project is that we will be procuring the project manager. That should be done by tomorrow. We have also staff evaluating and installing the the alarms and so that we can go ahead and secure the building so that only our staff is allowed into the building. And also a project that's already begun is the soundproofing. We do have a lot of the cement walls downstairs, and what facilities will be doing is putting up material so maybe not completely soundproof the entire building or the bottom portion, but it will dampen at least the noise that can be heard from above the dispatch services of Kit Carson. With that, Mr. Mayor, I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Abigail. Is there any questions, comments?
If I may just add a little bit here, the idea of a project manager, we thought it was just very important here. Not just that it'd be someone who was competent, but and had experience at doing these things, but also someone who stood at arm's length with all of the different vendors. One thing we discovered is that in New Mexico, it is a small community of people who do this work. At some point, one person works for the other, and inevitably they all end up at some point working for Motorola because they're just simply that big a player in the state. So we recruited L.R. Kimball because they are never in a position where they end up working for any one of the vendors, et cetera. We just felt that we needed somebody who was in that had that kind of relationship with them, watching out for our interests.
Right, and Oscar, just to follow up on that, we had received an initial proposal from Advanced Communication for the project management portion of this relocation as well, but for the reasons that Oscar stated, we thought it'd be best to go with L.R. Kimball. Plus, they do have a gamut of resources when it comes to radios, and a lot of the individuals that work for them have been PSAP supervisors, and they've done plenty of these relocations in other states around the country.
Okay. Thank you, Abigail. I just want to let everyone know in the audience, I received a call last week from Mr. J.R. Logan from the Taos News to comment on a letter that went out to DFA from the county regarding this issue. And most of you got a copy of that letter from our manager as an FYI. I did contact DFA to see if there was any concerns, and they were unaware of a letter. Obviously, this letter hadn't reached his hands. I contacted him again on Friday, and he still was unaware of a letter, and this was the 24th, and the letter was dated May 10th. So I'm not sure what the intent of was this letter. This letter did contain a lot of false information, false accusations. I think it was unfortunate that the county decided to draft this letter, but according to DFA, this clearly project is underway, well in compliance with their standards, and they're supportive of it. And this is not an issue that they're going to take up. This is a local issue. They said the dispute regarding this relocation with the county is not something we're going to get involved in. The town is the lead on this, and they're supportive of it.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Abeyta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. Make a couple of comments on that letter. I read it line by line, and basically it was a last-minute desperation letter by the county to pull a bluff. It was ridiculous. I believe they've crunched their own numbers, and they're determining that they need to spend about $1 million to set up their own command center, and they're finding out that they just can't do it, versus joining the town and spending $2,700 a month to lease the new command center that was designed for this very purpose and agreed to by a previous commission 10 years ago. So it's sad that that's what they think, Mr. Mayor, but that's what it is.
Okay. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Oscar. Looking forward, I believe firmly that this is going to be one of the best things that we've ever done as a council to get into the new technology of a new command center. Okay, next we'll go to Resolution 1330, Capital Improvements Program, approval of Resolution 1330, Capital Improvements Program and Community Grants Program for fiscal year 2013 and 2014. Oscar Bennett?
Yes, sir.
Marietta, welcome.
I think you missed it because the first resolution is the budget policies.
I'm sorry. I went to G and then I went to okay. Approval of Resolution 1329, budget policies for fiscal year 2013, 2014. Oscar.
Yes, sir. Along with our budget, it is customary for the council to also approve the policies that guide its implementation and its development and just the way we manage resources, et cetera. And so anyway, it's in there. Marietta, if you could just point out the changes to the policies from last year. We did this with you at the workshop
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago anyway, just to make sure
Okay.
that it's clear.
Mr. Mayor, council members, you have attached to your packet, and I just put the major changes on the resolution, is under the Section 10, approval of small purchases, and under Section 11, approval of professional services. And these changes are really reflecting the changes made in the procurement code by the state, which will go into effect July 1st. So those are the major changes, and those are approval of small purchases are now expenditures less than $60,000.
As opposed to the $50,000 limit that's there now.
Well, in the small purchasers, that was opposed to $20,000. So they raised that up quite a bit. Professional services, landscape architects, engineers is now $60,000 also. That used to be $50,000. So we're just trying to get to the level of the mayor's approval and of items that we do. Now, we do a little bit more stricter for our town. We're not higher than the state, but you can see on those underlined ones, 5,000 but less than 10,000. We require 3 written quotations. Over 10,000 but less than 30 will be a small bid process, and over 30 but less than 60 will be a formal bid. And those are just the internal levels that we have recommended moving up to. The process will be quicker with the 60,000. We won't have to be doing more advertising in the newspapers and stuff. So we feel that these changes are, I think, a comfortable level for what we're doing. And I think those are the major changes from when I submitted to you this the May 1st budget hearing meeting. And I stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have really any questions, just much more, I guess, in the way of a comment, in that even with regards to the amounts that the limits have been bumped up, I'd like to commend you because any contract amount you typically bring to the council anyway, so thank you.
So.
Yeah, I believe it's been my practice ever since I've been mayor to make the council fully aware of any contract that I'm getting into, whether it falls within my authority or not. Just as an FYI. Okay. Continue. Are there any other questions? Any comments, questions? If not, move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item H, approval of Resolution 1330, Capital Improvements Program and Community Grants Program for fiscal year 2013-2014.
Yes, sir. So a piece of our budget is also the capital improvements budget. We're doing this differently this year so that you get more perspective and not just that 1 year list of projects. What you have in your backup or as part of what we're asking to approve is a 5-year CIP program. I presented this to you at the workshop, and the direction I got from you was that we cut out projects that were truly just wish lists, were just wishes, and for which there was no possibility of getting any kind of funding. And I'll explain to you why they were even in there in the first place. They were in there in the first place because of the tradition of the ICIP, where communities ask for or put on a list all possible things that they think they might get the legislature to fund. And so, although sometimes it seems that the local community just has no way of doing those things and would otherwise make no sense to be on a wish list, they're put on there anyway on the outlying chance, on the rare chance that the legislature has the money and has the will to go ahead and fund them. So what we've done is the first 5 years is to eliminate all those wish lists, all of those projects, and then hold all the CIP projects to a budget. of about about $900,000, and so that's what you have there. As a result, we have then added only then a list of the projects we think, that we know we have funding for.
Let me just stop him 1 second. He's talking about the 5-year CIP. This is the current year CIP. So that's the item that I just didn't want to interrupt you. But he cleared the 5-year CIP. That's
well,
what
the first year of the 5-year CIP is, they're all one and the same.
They're all one and the same. But I just so that if you're looking at the presentation right now, it's the first year of the 5-year CIP.
Mr. Mayor, just to speed this up a little bit, could you just tell us any changes in the CIP for this year from what we looked at the last
Yes.
budget hearing?
And what I did is, if you have them in front of you, they're just all in pink, but on the Fund 50, which is our facilities, we pretty much changed everything based on the needs and the money that was allocated to that. So we did add some replacement at Kit Carson Park irrigation pump system. We added the town hall improvements phase 2. We did the airport terminal new roof, Don Fernando Hall, Baton Hall roof replacement, a partial, demolished yard wall at Fred Baca Park, and we took out Anciano Senior Citizen roof replacement, and
we pushed it back
two.
for a year.
We pushed it back a few years, so we'll see that on the additional 5-year CIP.
And the whole idea is that so no longer do we say we took it out. We tell you in what year we put it. And if I may, just for clarity's sake here, town hall improvements at $32,000. What that is a lane, a police car lane on the east side of town hall, so they can come in with the police can come in with witnesses or victims, etc., and just come in the backside as opposed to having to come in from the front. It also includes doors leading up to the finance department, key doors leading up to the finance department, and a surveillance system.
Mr. Mayor,
$32,000.
I do have a question with regards to the line item 50 with regard to Kit Carson Park restrooms. I know we had talked in the budget process of getting those things as actual restrooms, not
Yes,
outhouses.
And when we have changed our design for that to happen.
Good.
So that is just.
All right, Mr. Mayor, just one other question. The current year CIP, did you increase the budget, or has it remained the same as what we saw before, and just shifted things around?
We only increased it by this $32,000 for town hall improvements, and other than that, just carryover amounts are different, or projects are different based on that last budget adjustment that you just approved. Those items were changed, but other than that, there was no other additional increases. Just changes to projects, changes to carryover amounts.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? No. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we will go to item I, consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1331, 5-year capital improvements program. Oscar, Arietta?
Well, I think you heard my presentation on that already. You approved the first year of this 5-year CIP.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to thank Oscar for cleaning up the wish list.
Well, actually, what we did is we pushed them to the 6th year so that they can still be
someplace in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, just to make that note, we pushed them to the last year because when we do come back with the ICIP instructions from the state, they still want you to have some of those things on there, but you're not seeing them. These are realistic, but they are going to come back on that state-funded ICIP. But we did a real good cut here.
As Councilor Peralta said, I mean, clearly some of these that are on there, there's no way. They're just clearly a wish list. And now at least we have a realistic picture of where we want to be in 5 years. So. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick on the Resolution 1331, just with regards more a housekeeping item. They have the Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member backwards.
Oh.
I will definitely make that change. Who is it? I'll fix it, whatever it is. Oh, yes. This is what happens when you cut and paste from years past. We'll definitely fix that.
Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, we go on to our real budget, our document that we live by and that we operate by for a year. This is the public hearing approval of Resolution 1332, annual operating budget for fiscal year 2013-2014. Oscar.
Well, there you have it, Mayor and Council. The budget with the changes that you requested be put in there. We also made just a couple of corrections as well. What I'm going to ask is our finance director just to go over those specific changes. And also, I do want to just make clear here as well and have it in the record that in the budget there are proposals to increase, for example, parking fees, to increase the fines to the parking or parking fines, as well as the $10 fee to non-town adults using the library. Requesting library cards. And so with your approval of this budget, then we would take that as approval of the fees or in effect would put in place those fees. So I just want to make clear and have that in the record.
Are you ready, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, council members, I'll just give you a quick summary of what changes we made from the May 1st budget hearing. In the executive department, we did add $4,000 to contractual services for a public relations contract person service or whatever it may be to help us on that on our public relations side.
And Mr. Mayor, you asked that I call around to see if we could get somebody to do it for that amount, and yes. There are a number of people, I mean, I haven't contracted anybody, but yes, there were a number of people who said, yeah, they would be willing to do it for that amount.
Okay. We also increased the assistant town manager's percentage allocation to 75%. That was approximately about a $25,000 increase.
And so, just to be clear here, what that means.
You didn't know?
This is not a raise, no.
No. Oh.
What this is the way how her salary is being paid for. So part of her salary is being paid for out of the 911 communications fund, and the other part is general fund. That's all we're doing. So
percentage allocation. That's what I said. I didn't say increase, but that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So.
It was good while it lasted.
Almost.
Okay, so that was one of the changes that we did make. Under council, we adjusted some travel associated with cost and for the leadership program for Council Member Silva and Council Member Gonzalez. In the Planning, Zoning, and Buildings Department, we decreased the shared planning contract with the county that didn't go through. So we decreased that by $54,000 and increased the Planning Department's director position to $62,000. That was a net savings of $41,165 contract versus employee, but we used the savings, so we didn't really have the savings. We're just giving you some figures here. The Historic District Fund, we added $8,700 for the Yuletide event, not anything with arts and crafts, but the event for the Yuletide under the Historic District to help offset those costs that were taken away from the Yuletide arts and crafts budget itself. And we did delete that arts and crafts budget. The remaining balance that they did have in there, we reallocated it to youth programming for special events for the youth. So they could use that money. That's $7,642. We added 3 projects to the Community Grants Fund, $5,000 to Taos Coalition to End the Homeless, $2,500 to Taos Children's Theater, and $1,500 to New Mexico Finance Authority Element Grant for revision that just was not in there as a carryover project. Like we said, we did make some various changes to capital improvements, not really adding money, just changing the carryover amounts. And there was one item in the communications fund that was requested to put that ending balance into a budgeted line item. And Oscar may discuss that a little bit more, but we've decided just to leave it in the ending balance because all of the other funds are recorded that way. There may be a discussion on that on the communications fund. We've decided not to include it as a budgeted contingency line item.
So just to make clear, Councilman Peralta, you had requested that we actually budget the ending balance. And we looked at that, and what we found is that would be the only fund that we treated that way. And so it would just stood out. And so at this point, we're recommending that it still be treated as a separate item, and not as a budget item, but just a balance on the budget. And another reason for that is that we very much hope that all of this activity will be inherited by somebody else, and that way we can just kind of move all that stuff there with that kind of accounting. Anyway, that's our recommendation still, that we not budget for an imbalance, but sort of put that in there.
Well, I mean, basically, with you, Mr. Mayor, if I could, and answering Oscar, is basically what you're doing is you're taking the money that's left over that reserve and create a reserve fund out of it. So it's budgeted in the sense of non-spending money, yes, but you budget it, you show it in the books, yes, as a carryover to the next, yes, fiscal year. So if it's going to be added to the 1/12th, then you add it to the 1/12th. If it's not general fund monies and it's capital monies, then it goes into reserve for capital projects in the future, whatever.
Yes,
okay,
that's it.
But we should show all the dollars that we have,
right,
or anticipate having someplace in some sort of structure, so that it's easy to understand when you look at the budget, and we don't end up in a situation where a person in the past who said we had $8 million we were hiding.
Right. So it is in the budget recap that you have. It is separated out in its fund by itself. So everything is recorded in there. So whatever is in that fund is directly related to communications. So it is identified pretty separate as its own
an amount not to be spent.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So those were the major changes
within the budget.
the whole operating budget capital. You do see, I think you have all a little summary I just put together where all the money comes from on different funds, the carryover, the share taxes, agency funds, what equals our $46 million in actual revenue between all those. And
would you also go over the one-time items, the grants, the one-time grants? I know there's at least one person in the audience that's curious to see in terms of the groups that are being funded. For example, the men's homeless shelter, et cetera, and also the funds that we put aside per the council's direction for the fiesta, to buy booth space at the fiestas.
So those are just under the community grants themselves, and I'll just.
What page are you on?
I'm actually going back to the community grants, this one here.
Okay.
That's with the capital, and because that's more detailed. I mean, it's also in the budget, but I think this would be quicker for you. So on the community grants that were not usually part of this process, but this year they are, we have the professional lobby services, supportive and nutritional services to senior citizens, that's $30,000. The lobbyist service was $35,000. $5,000 for food baskets to the needy, $5,000 to Taos Coalition to End Homeless, $2,500 to Taos Children's Theater. We have Anciano's Equipment, that's a small grant. We have down to under police, domestic violence supportive services for $25,000, $5,000 for safe room investigation services, $18,000 for recreational facility lease, and then also additional amount to the eco park management. Now these are one-time.
And the homeless, men's homeless?
Men's homeless. That one's is it's actually Taos Coalition to End Homeless. Right?
Okay.
It's men's, but that's how it was recorded this year.
All right.
And it was for $5,000 this current year, so we are doing it at the same amount as $5,000.
I also had a question here from the dais about the funding for us to buy booth space at the fiestas, and could we just point out to them where that money is?
That one, I'm thinking.
It's in the council.
It's in the council set. Okay, yeah. That one is in the council set aside.
Yes.
What is the amount?
Probably under contractual services. I think there's an amount of roughly $6,000 some dollars. I don't know how many booth spaces.
Yeah, it depends. The booths are different prices. The ones closest to the plaza are more expensive. The ones aside from there, or in the alleyways, etc., are less, are shorter. Lower price. And so I did talk to Francisco Trujillo, and he understands the proposal. He was going to take that to his board. They appreciate the offer, and they're going to try and work something out so that the fiestas this year there's going to be a lot more walking space, and there will be a lot fewer booths. They were thinking though that they might want to still keep some of the booths that are in the roads, on the side of the roads, or something like that. But anyway, they're thinking of what exactly how we could work it out. But they understand that what you're looking for, the council is looking for, is a fiestas with fewer booths, more food, and more local crafts.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one question? With regards to that proposal or what we've given to the Fiesta Council, for me, it's a little disheartening to see the gang-affiliated merchandise and the drug-affiliated merchandise that's in there, especially in a community that's plagued by both. And I don't know what we can do to enact to get it out of there completely. I know most of those booths are, they have their knickknacks and their whatnot, but there's the one or two specifically that cater to that crowd, and I'd love to see them out of there because I feel for us as a council, we set the precedence that we allow the activity to take place. So
I will carry that message. They understand that. They said, look, we're not comfortable with that either, and they understand what we're trying to get to, and they think that with these resources that they're going to get there.
Well, and the thing I guess I look at is that while they're not comfortable with it, there's always the but, that follows with that, and I would just rather say there's being uncomfortable, and then there's not tolerating it.
Okay. I'll carry that message.
Councilmember Silva, then we'll get to Councilmember.
I think what you're, for the viewing audience, I think what we're seeing here is this council is pretty serious about taking the fiestas to be more traditional like they were in the past. And so I look forward to that. I just want to say that.
Okay. Councilmember Obeta.
Mr. Mayor, and the idea of buying spaces to unplug the plaza, to make it more traditional, to get rid of the flea market atmosphere, is not to take booths to adjacent roads and still have booths. So it's not going to work that way, Oscar.
Okay.
It has to be traditional. It has to be booths just in the plaza, in the inner circle, traditional food and fiesta attire, but it's not a flea market. It's a traditional fiesta.
If it turns out that we have to put more money on the table to achieve that, I'll certainly come back to you.
Absolutely.
How about that? It's a one-time money, so it doesn't unbalance our budget. It would just be money that we'd be taking from the ending balance.
But we're not going to shore up their budget so they can continue to collect money from X amount of booths that are selling junk and other stuff.
Yes.
So I do want to preface the comments and state that this council fully appreciates what the Fiesta Council does for this annual event. There has been some concern that it maybe isn't as traditional as it used to be, and their concern is budget. They sell these booth spaces primarily to generate revenue to offset costs, and the council is coming to the table to help them with that in exchange for them doing away with some of these booths that have been of concern. So that's basically what we're talking about here.
Got it.
Okay.
I'll carry that message.
Mr. Mayor, it is, I guess, a semi-public hearing. We do open it up for public comments. So I don't know if we've gotten enough.
Any other comments from the council? And I'll open it up. At this time, it is a public hearing. This is our annual operating budget public hearing. I'll open it up for public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this budget? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and go to the council. What's the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. Council members did on the library, so if there's clear direction. Do you want us to reach out one last time and let them know that we have till July 1st to change our budget? If not, the budget is tentatively approved as is.
Mr. Mayor, I think it'd be a good idea that we reach out as well and allow the constituent base time to do their reaching out as well to maybe.
And if they're unsuccessful with the county, then the budget stands with the changes?
Yes.
It's a good plan.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we can also come back at a future date if the county comes in later and readjust the budget and stop the procedure of the funds and use them for allocating books or whatever.
Okay. Mayor, if I may, just for the record as well and for the public that may be listening in, that as a result of the fee increase, we are able to not cut the library. And so, yeah, and there were two departments that were held harmless. One was 911, and the other one was the library, because even the police department saw a 2.6% cut.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman.
And to use numbers, one final comment on the library. The library will be funded at $565,000 at plus $365,000, so all 100% funded by the town of Taos. We're just asking that the county kindly consider stepping to the plate and cost sharing with us with maybe 5, 10, or 15, or even 20%, considering that 70% of the users are from the county.
All right. I think that sounds like a fair deal.
Absolutely.
All those in favor, it is a public hearing, so I have to do a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Beta?
Yes.
Okay, by the vote of 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the budget is passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, town managers.
Okay.
By the way, Mayor, before he leaves the room, I'd like to just point out that tonight is the last night of our library director will be here as a library director.
Well, thank you, George. I know that you're here, but I'd like to do a formal recognition at the next meeting. We can do for a service
After he's gone.
For the town.
Well, we'll bring him back.
Bring him back for a formal recognition. I was unaware that this was your last day at the library, and also welcome Shirley as the new director. Yeah. So we'll see you at our next meeting, hopefully.
And how many more days do you have?
He's got a countdown time.
Well, he's getting his countdown time. Don't forget that there's lunch to say goodbye on Friday at the library.
3 hours, 27 minutes, and 42 seconds.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, George, for your service to the town of Taos.
Thank you, George.
Thank you very much. Okay, the town of Taos personnel policy. Consideration and approval of town of Taos personnel policy. The overall objective of this personnel policy is to implement the provisions of the relevant statutes of the state of New Mexico as interpreted by the town and to provide a merit personnel system.
Good evening, Mayor,
welcome.
council members, town manager. I've asked Abigail to join me, and I'd also like to recognize Brian James. When Brian started with the town of Taos, I believe it was the first week that I went to him right away and said, we have a problem, and I need your help fixing it. So with that, we did know that our current personnel policy had a lot of inconsistencies that we needed to work on before it got us into trouble. Brian took on the project to help me, and we asked Abigail to join because I work very closely with Abigail, and she's aware of the challenges in HR, and most especially progressive discipline. So they have helped me with this policy. It was a long process. It took us many hours to work on this, but we believe that we bring before you a really good starting point to correct the inconsistencies we have.
Mr. Mayor, I just hope Brian doesn't get tired of hearing that.
Fine.
Brian, we have a problem. Can you help us?
That's the whole job, Councilman. If I stop hearing that, I'm going to worry about my paycheck.
So as Abigail pointed out, it is. We're hoping it's not a starting point, but it's the final.
Yeah, we're past the starting point.
I would like to highlight for you some of the changes that we see on this new policy versus our old one. The new policy has removed contradicting language and inconsistencies, which we knew were present on our old policy. Violation of this policy is no longer a misdemeanor punishable by law. And by separating the personnel ordinance from this personnel policy, that's what makes it not a misdemeanor. The new policy...
So if a council member would have called, or a mayor would have called a director and asked them to get him a document, that was in violation of our personnel policy.
If they didn't follow personnel policy.
It was punishable by jail time, right?
Yeah, in 90 days.
Just 18 Sanchez.
In theory.
Yeah. How come we never did that?
Free lunch,
Okay.
dinner.
The new policy also follows New Mexico state statutes. We found that trying to implement our old policy and then having to go look at state statute was really confusing. So we now follow New Mexico state statutes. The new policy is also created to provide a merit policy system for classified service. What we mean by this is it allows for pay increases. It has a section that allows for furloughs, reduction in force, and it's all tied to merit. Go ahead.
Laura, if I may, Mr. Mayor, council members, it's important to note that the personnel policy applies to our classified employees. So those are employees that are not in any supervisory capacity. So it applies strictly to them.
So the ordinance, which we will approve after this or bring to you for approval, applies to the appointed officers and management, department management team. This policy applies to classified employees. Okay. With that, just some quick noteworthy areas of mention. Part 4 talks about overtime. We've added the 7K exemption provision for police and firefighters to this. On Part 6, we've defined resignation versus constructive resignation. And by constructive resignation, what we mean by that is if an employee is no call, no show for 3 days, they are constructively resigned from town service. Part 7 changes bereavement leave from 3 days to 2 days. Part 7 also talks about family medical leave. And currently, as part of our standard operating procedures, the town requires employees to use their accrued personal leave in conjunction with FMLA. This makes it part of our policy. Part 9 sets standards for performance appraisals. And it also, there is a clause in there that does say that if directors do not perform performance appraisals on their employees, they will be held accountable for that.
Including termination.
Including termination, up to termination. Part 10 sets guidelines for furloughs, reduction in force, and right to first refusal. Part 11, we added an entire section on employee conduct. State statute doesn't have a section on employee conduct. We felt that it was important to add that to our policy, so we added that entire section. Part 11 also addresses compliance with the Governmental Conduct Act. Part 12 addresses discipline and affords employees their right to due process. And Part 13 provides guidelines for the appeal of disciplinary action to the Personnel Board. So that is, in a nutshell, the changes or the new parts of our personnel policy. And I stand for any questions.
Questions, comments? Councilor Bill?
Just one comment. Thank you very much. This is a very good update and correction. I appreciate it very much. But one of the things I'd like to have when you do something like this is a mock-up so that I can see the changes that are going into the policy, either by underline or red line or whatever.
Okay, and I
But not for this is for the future when you bring
Okay,
something back
sure.
to us. That way we can look and see what's the change is, either what you've deleted or you've added or whatever it is, and it's easier for us to update ourselves rather than reading through the whole policy.
And
it's a legislative process.
I think the reason why that wasn't done, correct me if I'm wrong, is that these changes were so significant and reworded and revamped to be congruent with state that it was almost a complete rewrite, correct?
Well, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. This is it's like the difference between repairing a car and buying a new one. We junked the old one. And this is, it literally, I think, changes. I don't know that the red line would have made any sense, Councilman, is what I'm trying to say. There are huge wholesale changes here, and to the extent that it lends any comfort, they are patterned after the New Mexico Administrative Code, state personnel guidelines, for the purpose of making them easier to understand. There's court cases about them. There's lots of litigation about them. They're these terms are well defined, the concepts are well understood. So hopefully, if we get into a situation where there's a contest about these, we have a whole body of case law that we can use to help interpret.
So, Mr. Mayor, then what you're doing, Brian, then is you're going to repeal the old personnel policy ordinance and put this one in its place.
Yes, when we get to the ordinance, the governance and personnel ordinance, we're taking all of the personnel policy stuff out of that. Will be repealed. That's what we'll remove it as a misdemeanor for violations. And the balance of the ordinance itself will relate to the appointed officers and the department heads, as well as coordinating the different responsibilities that are within New Mexico statute for hiring and firing. There are several overlapping choices, and the council will recall we had the executive session about this. Geez, it was last fall now where we sorted those out. So this personnel policy is going to get surgically removed from the ordinance entitled Governance and Personnel, and this will be a standalone policy that we anticipate would be reviewed hopefully not more than annually, and certainly at each organizational meeting of the council.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Beta.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you for everyone that worked on this. This is a very well-written document. I looked hard to find anything wrong, and I found two things wrong, but they're real minor. On Part 13 and 14, when you reference under the objective, you just have a mismatch on the numbers. Okay. Part 13 references the objective of Part 12, and same with 14 to 13. Okay. So just line those up. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Not what is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. I just want to thank Brian also and staff for working out, Loretta and Abigail. This simplifies a lot of things because for whatever reason, we started kind of meandering the policy where it just got completely away from the state statute and it was just too contradictory. So this gives us a clear guideline as it relates to the classified employees. I look forward to the ordinance on the other employees. Thank you. Thank you. All right, next we will go to, thank you very much. This is the ordinance here for consideration of possible approval of Ordinance 1309, an ordinance repealing Ordinance 1206 and amending Title III, Governance and Personnel of the Town of Taos Code to provide a system of appointing, hiring, discharging town employees.
Mayor,
Loretta?
council members, the ordinance itself is going to deal mostly with appointed officers and department heads. It also outlines the duties and responsibilities of the mayor, the council, and the 5 appointed officers.
Do you want to explain who the 5 appointed officers are?
The 5 appointed officers by state law are the town manager, town clerk, town attorney, chief of police, and director of finance or treasurer. Okay, so chapter 3.64 of the ordinance, let me start with the ordinance itself. It does read, and I do have a correction to the ordinance that was publicized. Ordinance number 1309, it does repeal ordinance 1206, and I believe that part wasn't on the publicized portion. It is on the document that I gave to you all, but not on the one that was published. Again, so the ordinance itself, as the mayor said, deals with, or my train of thought went, I apologize for that.
The main objective, Mr. Mayor and Council, with this ordinance is just to clarify what the state statutes currently have, and them themselves are contradictory. So you have some of the state statutes that say that the mayor has the authority to hire and fire not only the appointed officers, the 5 that Loretta just highlighted, but every department head. And then you have another that says that that should only be done through the town manager, and then another ordinance that says that the town council has the authority to essentially hire and fire any employee, to include the classified employees.
So thank you very much. So what the ordinance does is it does clarify where the authority is for each of these items. Chapter 3.64 states that the appointment of officers are appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the town council. And of course, the appointed officers, as I mentioned, were the town manager, town clerk, town attorney, chief of police, and director of finance. Chapter 3.64.100 talks about the removal and suspension of appointed officers. It reads that the mayor or town manager may remove any appointed officer from their appointed position with or without cause upon the approval of a majority of all members of the governing body. And Chapter 3.64.110 talks about termination and severance pay for appointed officers. Chapter 3.64.130 talks about department heads, and it reads, department heads, with the exception of appointed officers, are appointed by the town manager and are at-will employees. So they are at will.
I'm sorry, Loretta. Mr. Mayor, Council, if I may, that is an important notation to make at this point, because up until this point, or a few months ago, department heads were under the impression that we were all including the assistant manager, were classified employees. And through Brian's research, he did locate the statutes and case law that states that department heads as well as the assistant town manager are at-will employees. That's why they're separated into the ordinance and not included into the personnel policy along with classified employees.
And that can be fired by the town manager without cause.
Correct.
And by the majority of the council also.
Correct.
Without cause.
And I was going to ask, because I think when you just stated that right there, said had to be unanimous as far as the council, but it should be the majority, right? Unless I misheard.
It's the majority, I'm sorry. It was the majority.
Right.
So along with that, we did put in a section addressing severance pay for department heads. Chapter 3.64.140 talks about the removal and suspension of department heads, and it reads, the town manager or the council by majority vote of the entire council may dismiss or suspend any classified department head for any reason subject to the severance policies contained herein. Okay, and what we talked very briefly about classified employees, as this is a big portion or a big section that we need to also address. Under Chapter 3.28.020, the powers and duties of the town council may discharge any appointed officer, department head, classified, or other employee by a majority vote of the entire council, subject to the provisions of this ordinance and the personnel policy as applicable. Let's always remember that your classified employees do have the right to the due process procedures. The duties and powers and duties of the town manager says that the town manager is responsible for the effective management of the administrative affairs of the town, including the hiring, discharging of department heads and other employees of the town who are not appointed officers.
What section are you reading there?
I am reading section 3.36.030.
Page?
A. Letter A.
Page,
I am sorry, that is on page 3.36.
Page 15.
15, yeah. 15.
Page 15, beginning on page 15.
Yeah, because this became an issue, so this is congruent with the state, correct? This mirrors the state statute.
Yes. Well, it mirrors it in summary, so it doesn't mirror it entirely because the state statute says two different things. So,
contradictory things.
well, it's overlapping. They're not, I guess they're contradictory because they overlap. So this is the stuff that we discussed at the executive session last fall, and I guess the biggest change is, certainly the biggest change is that the department heads are now at will, and that all the appointed officers and department heads would expect to be subject to reappointment every time there's an organizational meeting of the council. The organizational meetings of the council take place after municipal elections. So there are some substantial changes there. In a nutshell, the council can fire anybody any day by majority vote. Now, with the classified employees, that has to be subject to the due process stuff that's in the personnel policy that was just adopted. And that comes, by the way, with a brand new personnel board, which is a change in the way we've done business. Now, per the direction of the mayor and council, the mayor is going to do the appointing of the appointed officers, and the manager is going to do the appointing of the department heads, and both of them have similar abilities to recommend the discharge. And again, it's one thing that's in black letter in the statute that is not disputable, is in a majority vote of this council can discharge any employee, appointed officer, department head, or classified employee. The only caveat being that if you discharge a classified employee, it has to be subject to the due process considerations in the personnel policy.
Councilmember Alta.
Brian, the statute also indicates in there that at the organizational meeting, the mayor and the council shall approve all of the employees of the town. How is that answered?
Well, that's in the statute. That's exactly what it says.
I mean, it's stupid, but I mean, how do we...
Well, let us not say the people in the roundhouse have done anything stupid.
Come on, we do all the time. Or have done all the time.
Well, I try not to do that in the TV. At any rate, all those things are true. But the statute does also provide that the classified employees have what it almost amounts to collective bargaining rights relative to the personnel policy. Mm-hmm. So the council could choose not to continue the employment of any of the classified employees, but that would have to be, generally speaking, for cause.
While for your appointed officers and your department heads, it's without cost.
Right. For appointed officers and department heads, that's just any reason, any day, any time. And although the language is also there for classified employees, it is also, they have the protection of the personnel policy, which has the due process stuff that's built in.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Abate.
A couple of quick comments. Looking back in history to approximately 4 years ago, all town employees, with the exception of one, were classified. At will. I led the effort to make them classified. We did. You could argue that the pendulum swung from here to here. Now the pendulum's swinging back just a little bit to where all directors will be at will. Why? Because state statute requires it. But number two, when you look at the organization, those directors are in the positions that are most critical to the organization, and the mayor and manager need to have the ability to dismiss at will for the benefit of the organization. So it's definitely a good move.
Mr. Mayor, council members, and lastly, but equally important.
Before we go to that, I've never seen this one under Chief Executive Officer exercise within the town those powers conferred upon the sheriffs of counties to suppress disorders and keep the peace.
Where you at, Mayor? What page?
Do I get a gun now?
14.
You can arrest. That was actually, has been under our old ordinance also.
Yeah, I've heard that by virtue of me appointing the chief of police, but I've never actually seen that.
That's on page 14.
Carry out your duties, but you are actually by the ordinance, by legislative mandate, the chief of police.
That's in the statute and has been forever.
Can we give him a badge and a uniform and make him wear it?
No, that would be a
And then we'll call
And it
him.
was part of our old policy, and I believe that several times the chief of police, if not this one or previous one, has come to you and said, Mayor, asking your permission to do something or other.
Yeah,
That's
I've
because
seen
of
that
this.
as a practice, but I had never seen the actual.
And Mr. Mayor,
language
if you take on that duty, we'll have to give you a new name to Doncito.
I remember. Doncito was a-
Remember Doncito would go around and show his badge all the time?
Yeah. Do you remember that guy? Yeah, I remember. Yeah, he was the ongoing sheriff. Okay, I just wanted to.
Sorry,
I'd never
man.
seen that.
That's
so.
interesting.
Yeah.
And lastly, but equally important, Chapter 3.69 creates a personnel board. And this is what we were talking about on the personnel policy. The purpose of the personnel board is to serve as in an advisory capacity in the administration of the town's personnel program for classified employees. And it also serves in an appellate capacity. This is the board that will help find hearing officers, help determine the outcome of the hearings.
Up until now, the way it's worked is that whenever there was a disciplinary action and the employee appealed it, the town manager, in essence, appointed a small committee of other employees. And so there was always the question that, well, if you appointed them and they're going to advise you, well, they're just going to advise you the things that you want. And I think it was that was a good point, and this goes a long way to resolving that. I mean, there will always be the question because they, in essence, they advise to the town manager, who then takes that advice or not.
Right. And Mr. Mayor, council members, the personnel board will consist of 3 individuals. Those 3 individuals, one of the individuals is selected by the mayor. The second individual will be nominated by the classified employees. They should probably come up with 3 names, bring that to the council, and the council will pick one of those individuals, and then those 2 individuals that are appointed will select the 3rd individual that will serve on the personnel board.
In essence, the problem that the existing policy has, and consider myself good in court, but no one's this good, allows for under our existing ordinance, for example, Oscar or any town manager could be the person who is writing the discipline, interpreting the code, conducting the hearings, and then deciding the appeal. And that one doesn't do well in the courts for obvious reasons. So the personnel board may be a little unwieldy, but it's a vast improvement over what we have right now. We've also built in sort of a short form appeal to the personnel board without lawyers, without the need to hire attorneys, and a sort of calling it an informal appeal of the personnel board. And the personnel board, if you're going to go to a formal process, is going to be a full blast administrative hearing with all the bells and whistles that go with that. Be a very expensive and time-consuming process. The better news for this council is that means this council does not have to sit as that appellate body, but rather this personnel board will.
It's okay. Mr. Mayor, Brian, and then if there is an appeal to the personnel board, does that go to district court or does that come to the council?
Well, it depends. If you use the informal process, there's no appeal whatsoever. You just live with the personnel board decision. Ultimately, the final decision by the town is appealable to the district court if you go through the formal process.
But I'm just saying is that if the person appeals the personnel board's decision, does that go to bypass the council and then go to district court?
Yes.
Okay, so the council is out of the loop.
Yes, for the simple reason that experience that it's been suggested that way because governing bodies are not used to acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, and you sort of negate the savings of having the personnel board if you involve the council in the appellate process. So the record on appeal would be made in front of the personnel board. The recommendation would be made to the town manager. If he accepts it, it's done. If they don't accept it, then the appeal would be to district court under the court rules.
Brian, Mr. Mayor, I had a question here that when the board is appointed, how long are their terms? That's the question I have.
That's a big pain in the rear end to write this. They're staggered terms, they're 3-year terms. So somebody's going to get a 1 year to begin with, somebody's going to get a 2, and somebody's going to get a 3. Then after that, they cycle in regular 3-year intervals. And they, of course, are subject to removal.
And the Human Resources Director serves as a non-voting advisor to the Personnel Board. So my involvement will be in there also.
Mr. Mayor, can I bring up one thing, and that's with regards to compensation. I'm in no way, shape, or form asking for a raise. But just looking at it, it shows that the statute dates back to March 3rd of 1998, which is well over 10-plus years with regards to compensation to mayor and council. And I would never take a raise prior to our employees taking one, but to bring back at a later date, just so that we can keep that up with where the county commission sits on it, because I think they get enacted by the state, correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Gonzalez, and you also, based on any increases that the state approves, your income is a percentage of that increase. So whenever they approve an increase, we bring it to council for approval to increase your wages.
But just to be absolutely clear, Councilor, could you just walk us through the basic principle of what's approved here takes effect in the next, for the next council?
Yeah, the state of New Mexico, well, actually no state I'm familiar with, is comfortable with council persons voting on their own raises. So if you voted on a raise, it would take effect in the next, for the next council that was elected. So there's no situation in New Mexico where this council can vote on a raise and then start to collect that raise itself. It has to be the next group. So if you're going to vote on a raise, you have to get through an election as a result of it before you see the money. Right. And I believe this was changed this year. Did a lot of research on this in Los Alamos County, who was overpaying their people.
They got deep pockets, though.
But I think the governor vetoed the increase. And they're really low numbers. If you look at the statute, they're ridiculously low numbers in terms of compensation.
Are you talking about the county commission?
Yes.
So she vetoed the 26,000 it was going to go to for Taos County?
I don't know what she vetoed. She vetoed the raises. I don't know what the numbers were, Council, but I do know that a package passed and it did not get her signature.
Okay. Because my understanding is that that's what it was, going from 23 to 26,000 for county commissioners in the Class B county.
Yeah, I think it was varied by the classes, whatever vowel you were. But I don't think any of them survived the governor's review.
Okay.
And just for clarification, Mayor, I'm not asking for a raise.
And it is 80% of a county commissioner by statute. That is what a councilor gets.
I believe it's 80% for the mayor and
80% for the council, and then 120%. 160.
You're right, 160% for the mayor.
Okay. Is that 160? Yeah, correct. It is. Okay. So any further discussion? This is a public hearing. I did not open it up for public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak under this ordinance at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on construction and on ordinance 1309. Shouldn't, rather than on page 1 where it indicates please reference or refer to attachment, shouldn't it be more not reference to the attachment, but the attachment is made a part of this ordinance by adoption?
Yeah, it should be incorporated by reference in its entirety, yes.
Okay, that's not how I see it stated, so I'm just asking the question if that's
I can't make my computer work, so I tell you whether it's what it says or no.
So it says Title III Governance and Personnel, the town code is amended as follows. Please refer to the attachment. And shouldn't it be Code 3 or Title 3 is part of this ordinance by attachment?
All right, well, I would recommend that be amended to incorporate it herein by reference in its entirety. And I don't think that's a substantive change. We can make that as a clerical change.
Okay.
Last thing we need is any confusion about what we're adopting.
Are you saying, Councilor, that the ordinance doesn't reference the Title III?
It does reference it, but it's put as referred to rather than
right.
Then it is part of the ordinance.
Mayor, council members, the ordinance itself is 33 pages long. And
the resolution is 2 pages.
Yeah. So if we need to include the entire ordinance, just give me that direction, but it's going to be 33 pages long.
What we're adopting here is the ordinance.
Right.
And not
the
policy or a resolution. This is the actual ordinance we're adopting, so it has to be part of that ordinance and not by reference.
So do we need to amend the resolution?
They can do that.
We'll do it as a clerical correction. It's certainly not a substantive change.
Okay. Okay. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move for approval, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
By the vote of 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the ordinance is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to item B, discussion of ordinance. Are we just discussing it, or are we possibly approving it? Discussion of ordinance 1302, which will replace the Town of Taos sign code. Staff recommends denial of ordinance, to allow additional time to address right-of-ways, enforcement issues, and clarify the types, size, and design of signs which would be grandfathered, permitted, exempt, and specifically prohibited under the new code. This item was tabled at the April 23rd, 2013 regular council meeting. Brian, Oscar.
No, I would defer to our counselor, who's perhaps familiar with every letter and space in this ordinance. It has gone a tortured process in that it's been tabled a number of times. And we did that so that there would be input from everyone. And we have a lot of input. Now, the question here is just how the announcement is styled. Can we approve that based on the way it's styled?
No. Damn. I don't, this does not look like we're adopting this ordinance tonight. I'll be frank with you. I don't know who else to talk to about this ordinance. This has been in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission 4 times. They don't even have a role in this. It's not in their purview to review it. We asked them to do that to gather some public input. Mr. Morris was traveled about the town with this ordinance extensively. Mr. Foster traveled about to whatever group he could get to talk to him about it. The Planning and Zoning Commission, I know, doesn't want to see this again. This has to stop at some point. I thought we were ready to go. We did, on Thursday last week, get some input from the historic district people. But, I don't know, this is like a game of musical chairs. It needs to stop at some point. As far as I'm concerned, it's done.
So who are the staff recommended non-approval? And I apologize. I looked at the agenda, and I assumed that it was the sign code for final approval. So I just looked at it and said it was okay to be on there, but I
Me too, Mayor, and if anyone has any responsibility for that, is me, who is responsible for putting together the agenda here. And I do apologize for that, so I guess we have to post it one more time.
I missed it too. I was in Florida last week. If I'd have lost the rest of my hair if I'd have seen this. Anyway, I think it's done. It's as done as it's going to get. I'll be happy to try to incorporate whatever changes historic district folks wanted to do. But in terms of what's grandfathered, that's already known. The right-of-way enforcement issues are included in the ordinance now. All I do is parrot the State Highway Administrative Code as to those rules. The maps for the right-of-way, notwithstanding the fact that people complain about them, are the only maps we have. They come from the Department of Transportation, and those are them. So I don't know what else to do with this ordinance. I certainly don't recommend it goes back to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think it's been shopped. I mean, to believe Mr. Morris and Mr. Foster, they did everything but go door to door with this thing. So I don't know how we're going to get any more comments. I guess my recommendation would be to schedule it for the next meeting, adopt it, let's test drive it for a year and see if there's problems. But it's certainly, the new one is better than the old one in anybody's imagination.
Councilmember Pelton?
Mr. Mayor, for the purposes of discussion, I move adoption of ordinance 13-2.
There's a motion to approve ordinance 1302. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor, discussion on this, and because it doesn't seem like there's anybody around who was objecting that we should delay this sort of thing, and it's on the agenda for approval. I think we can go ahead and approve it tonight.
Well, it's on the agenda for discussion. Unfortunately, if it was a discussion or possible
Under public hearing, I would open it up for a public hearing and let's get it over with.
I know that the advertisement was for approval, so
that's correct.
Anyway, if you guys want to vote on this, I will defend the daylights out of it. I mean, you guys get to do a lot of stuff as a council. My legal advice to you is that this was advertised for approval. I think we've had public comment ad nauseum. We had some public comment tonight. I'm not trying to rush this thing, but I'm telling you that there's just nothing else I can even think we could do to improve it at this point.
Okay. I guess I'm concerned as to who put staff recommends denial, because we would have tabled it or continued it. And I apologize. I should have caught it approving the agenda, but I didn't catch it.
But Mayor, what this is old language from when it was first being moved from one council meeting to another council meeting. And so that's all it is. It's just old language. It was appropriate at that time because the idea was not to approve that version. And so
it's been tabled.
Yes, sir. It's just been on all the agendas so much that I think we all just got too comfortable with what the wording was on there.
Councilmember Peralta.
Mr. Mayor, since there isn't any staff who's recommending that we table it again, that's the reason I put it up for approval, and so it's a discussion up to the council as to whether or not they want to approve the motion before the floor.
And I think that along those lines, Councilmember Peralta, if the ordinance was properly and duly noticed through the publication through the newspaper, and this has been continued, tabled with date certain. You know, we tabled it and continued it for continued input. As you said, you can defend it. I'm at the pleasure of the council, and whatever the council wants to do. My only thing is, if we try to enforce this ordinance, are they going to bring it back that it wasn't duly noticed, that they didn't get that? But it was ordinance, according to the documents, ordinance was republished in the Taos News on May 9th, 2013. So here we have an error in the way it was, in the way the
styled on the agenda.
It was on the agenda.
Well, just because staff, whatever staff that is, recommending we deny it does not necessarily mean the council has to go along with that. So
Yeah, I'm saying I'm not going along with it. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, given that, if we do decide to move forward with potential approval, we have to, it's a public hearing, so you'll have to open it up.
This is a public hearing, yes.
Yeah.
So, we've had public hearings on it before, and we've closed the public hearings. But-
We've had two, yeah. For
But
public hearing
does the
galore.
council want to have, just for public record, another public hearing on this?
Absolutely.
Right now, yeah.
So if you,
No?
Yeah, I'm ready to vote on it right now.
yeah, because we have opened it up, I believe, twice
Oh, yeah.
for public hearing.
Both times we postponed it, we had a public hearing and public comment, opened and closed. We got public hearings covered, I'm sure of that.
Mr. Mayor, but if we open it up, we give anybody that came tonight that's here an opportunity to voice their opinion before we make a decision.
The problem is that I have a motion on the floor in a second, so for purposes of, is there anyone in the public hearing, that way I can ask to retract the motion. Is there anyone in the public hearing that would like to speak under this motion at this time? And seeing none, I will keep going with the motion that's on the floor.
That's fine.
I want to ask for them to.
You have a motion and a second, Mr. Mayor?
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this ordinance? Okay, clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beta?
Yes.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Peralta?
Yes.
Councilmember Silva?
Yes.
Okay, by the vote of 4 in the affirmative, none in the negative, ordinance 13-02, sign code modifications, is passed. And it's off of Brian's plate. And off of ours, for that matter.
Mr. Mayor, and I think with regards
Councilmember Gonzalez.
with regards to this, I mean, now that the temperatures are heating up, you're starting to see a lot of those flag banners starting to pop up also. And as we know, the winds have not subsided. So,
Especially the garage sale signs, I'm seeing a lot of those.
in the road,
Yeah, in the road. Or everywhere.
in the middle of the road.
Yeah. Okay. The ordinance is passed. Next, we'll go to matters from the mayor and council. Councilmember Oscar, I know we've been busy doing a lot of different stuff, but if we could make sure the water issue on the next one.
Yes, sir. That's
When I was
the
approving,
next big.
yeah, I know I'd asked it on the last one, but I completely.
Yeah,
forgot to.
and Mr. Mayor, I've started researching that, and there are a number of models out there, and this is one of those things that I don't want to take lightly. I don't want to just bring to you and have you vote here. What I'd like to do, because it affects just so many other parts of our organization, of our government, what I'd like to do is, this is one of those I'd like to bring through the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then shop around town, so that what comes to you is something that we can recommend, and alongside it there are also comments. I recall, in fact, when we were talking about the water utility or a water well ordinance back in the fall, that the direction you gave us was that for us to shop that to people who are involved with water wells, et cetera. And so I'd like to have the time then to do the same with this ordinance. I mean, of course, there are model ordinances. We can, certainly pick and choose from the elements of Santa Fe and Albuquerque, for example. But I would recommend, I think, just so you are able to make good policy, that I bring you something that is not only legally correct, but has also been shopped around, and you have the public comments on those.
So, and I think it's good to think it out well, make sure we have the right one that works. That I know Councilmember Peralta mentioned one that works in Albuquerque, on the watering of your grass. So if we can maybe ask the assistance of the media that's out there to let our constituents know that we're looking at some strict water use, being proactive. It's not an emergency situation, but given our drought situation, we want to just be ahead of the curve and have some water restrictions in place.
So if it's agreeable to you, how about a target date of the first meeting in July?
Okay. First meeting in July?
Yeah.
Okay. And right now, the message from the council would just be very responsible in your water use, in your watering of your water in the mornings or in the late evenings instead of the midday. Councilmember Peralta, you probably
Water before 10 o'clock in the morning or after 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yes.
And that way you don't get the evaporation with the hot sun during the middle of the day.
Yeah. And try to do as much water conservation as possible. All right, any other questions under matters from mayor and council, youth council member? That's all I had. Any other information? If not, entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
I was in Albuquerque this weekend dropping off my wife and baby.